Chevre, how are you? I hope everyone is gesund, stark, und freilich, begashmis und beruchnis. I hope everyone is healthy, strong, and happy physically and spiritually. As usual, since the war started, we've been adding tzedakah to every shir, gedel tzedakah shemakareves agula, and especially in Chodesh Elul, one of the Rosh Hashanahs is Hani Ishlere Eyu Umatonis Lavyonim. We have to increase in tzedakah as we spoke about last week. The chus and the merit of this tzedakah, Mashiach should come now. The war should be over. Then we say a prayer. This we say every single day. Atu Hashem Olikim Hashem Bechata BeAvram Beitzei Simir Kazdim V'Sam Teshmei Avram. You chose Avram and you changed his name to Avraham. And you found this a heart faithful before you. So this is what we're going to discuss today. What does it mean? You found this heart faithful before you. And it's brought down in the famous Sefer of the Rebbe, the compilation of Ayom Yom, that the idea of Umatzosas Levavoi Ne'eman Lefanecha represents the trait of Tmimus. He translated it as Erenskait. But it's connected to a verse in this week's Parsha, which has been discussed. Could be we even discussed it once before. And some commentators count it as one of the mitzvahs in the Torah. The Torah in Parsha Shoftim talks about leadership, kings, Shoftim, Shoitrim, policemen, judges, and it also talks about prophets, Nevi'im, and the prophets are a means of communication between Hashem and Bnei Yisrael. After it speaks about the others, false prophets, or people that go to fortune tellers, because one of the job descriptions of a prophet could be that he says what's going to happen in the future. He speaks about Asidos. Sometimes they say if you do good, this will happen. And if you do bad, this will happen. But a Navi, you can call him a seer, like the Chayzer Milabli. He was called a seer. A holy tzaddikim, they have a special vision. Akuk for tzaddik. So they could see the future. And they hit the perfect aim all the time, etc. But the Torah also warns us that to go seek the fortune by a fortune teller, by those that are not connected to Hashem, that's mamish, a terrible sin. And the pasuk mentions a couple of these. Ki te'avas Hashem kol oisa eile, ubgal te'avas eile Hashem lekecha meirish oisa mipenecha. That's in pasuk Yud Beis in Kapitel Yud Ches. But before that, I'm sorry, he says, there shall not be found among you one who causes the son or daughter to pass the fire. Which goes on, one who practices divinations in Ma'inin, or one who reads omens, or a sorcerer, or an animal charmer, or one who inquires of Oiv or Yerdaini, as the pasuk continues. So many people have this nature and a habit, and you can connect it to human curiosity. They go to the fortune teller. That's like a common idea. They looked into the crystal ball and they went to the fortune teller. So according to the Torah, this is Asur. Not only it's Asur, it's called Te'avas Hashem. Hashem looks at it as an abomination. And then after the pasuk mentions these specific things in particular that are connected to fortune telling, and we're talking about the contrast between the prophets of Bnei Yisrael, tzaddikim, connected to Hashem, or the opposite. So the Eibishter says after all these things that this is all an abomination of Hashem, and because of these abominations, Hashem banishes the nations from before you. And then the pasuk says, Tomim tiyem Hashem alikecha. You shall be wholehearted with Hashem, your God. And as we'll see in Rashi, what that means is that you trust Hashem. You trust Hashem, and it has many, many manifestations. and ramifications. First of all, because you trust in Hashem, so whatever Hashem needs you to know, you know. If you have to have some information concerning the future, you'll hear it from the Navi. Number one. Number two, you can't force fate. It's not in your control. You have zero control in a certain sense. So you're going to go to the fortune teller, you're going to believe in another power and another force, and then what? You can't do anything about it. You have to connect to Hashem, and that's what it's all about. And whatever that person, that other uses of things that you're trying to turn to are absolutely meaningless. There's zero substance to it. And it means that you placed a certain trust in something which is not Hashem. God forbid. So the Eibishter has an abomination. Tomim tiyim Hashem lekecha. We're going to soon look into Rashi. And the purpose of today's shir is to show you how without Chassidus, as we spoke about many times, I don't believe anybody really could understand and appreciate what this mitzvah, according to some commentators, what does this virtue, Tomim tiyim Hashem lekecha, really mean, and how profound it is, and how deep it is, and how essential it is, and how cardinal it is to the entire Yiddishkeit. Now there's a machlekes here between the Ramban and Rashi, see Likutei Sichos, volume 14, whether the word Tomim means to be perfect, and it could mean that it refers to the whole Torah, be complete, like keep the whole Torah with Hashem. Another interpretation, like Rashi is emphasizing, to be wholehearted. So that means it's not referring to the regular totality of Torah mitzvahs, like the 613. But it's talking about the specific things that it's mentioning in these psukim over here, these divinations, these alien divinations, so to speak, foreign, and opposite of Yiddishkeit, that as behemshech lezeh, that's why Rashi learns pshat, that over here, Tomim doesn't mean to be complete, and Tomim doesn't mean to be perfect, but what it means is to be earnest, sincere, wholeheartedness. That's what it means. Okay, but before we get into Rashi, I just want to mention a Balaturim that is so amazing, because from this Balaturim we could see how this is such an important, cardinal, fundamental, you could say Yisoidis, V'Amud HaChochmas, to the totality of Yiddishkeit. And this is on the posik of Tomim. The Balaturim says, Tov Gedolah. The Balaturim says that according to a scribal tradition, the Tov of the word Tomim is written big. And the Balaturim says as follows, Sheim Teilech B'Tmimos, if you will walk wholeheartedly with Hashem, Ki'ilu Kiyamte Me'alef Ad Tov, you will be considered as having fulfilled the entire Torah from Aleph until Tov. Why? Because in this trait really is the totality of Yiddishkeit from Aleph to Tov, and through that you will fulfill the whole of Yiddishkeit. So how can we understand it, especially if we said before that according to the Pashut Pshat and Rashi, we're talking about this pasuk comes behemshech to this whole divination business, and this is the contrast. But now let's look into Rashi, because there's many other small details we have to talk about. Tomim tiyim Hashem elikecha, and Rashi says, "Esalichim betmimos," you should walk with Him with wholeheartedness. But the tzapelei, look ahead to Him, trust in what He has in store for you. V'leitachker achar asidus, and do not delve into the future. Ella, but rather kol masha yovei alecha, whatever comes upon you, kabel betmimos, accept with wholeheartedness. V'oz tia imoi, and then you will be with Him ulechelkoi, and of His portion. So over here, first of all, straight away, Rashi is already adding something amazing, that Tomim Tia Im Hashem Elikecha doesn't only mean you should be wholehearted Im Hashem Elikecha with Hashem. That means when you're dealing with Him, like be honest when you're dealing with your boss. But it means Tomim Tia, if you'll be wholehearted, then you'll be Im Hashem Elikecha. You'll be connected with Him. You'll be one with Him. That's what it means Chelkoi. Then you're part of him. He chooses you. Now, you could say, why is that so? Because previously he said that Hashem will banish. The Torah says that Hashem banishes the other nations because of their divinations, etc., from the land. But if you do this, you're with him, so then you get the land. And that's what it means. It's Chelka, it's Hashem's portion. He chooses you, and he puts you in Eretz Yisrael. But the truth is that Chelka is much deeper than that. Tomim Tiyah im Hashem Melikecha means that if you'll be Tomim Tiyah, as we'll soon explain according to Chassidus, then you'll be im Melikecha, you'll be like Hashem. Hashem is timimus. Hashem is perfection, but we'll soon talk about that. And whole, but it also represents sincerity and pshitus. As Chassidus talks about the concept of pshitus, which means essence, beyond description. And therefore, those who learn Chassidus know that there's a concept called pshitus. But before we get to that, I just want to bring out a Gemara. And this Gemara, I think, also is connected, which would shed light and help us understand it. And it's a Gemara which, for some reason, everyone knows this Gemara, but usually only remembers the first part, but they don't remember the climax. Everyone knows, and it's brought down in all of Chassidus, about Shavuos, that we have, Hashem chose us. He went to all the nations and he asked them if they want the Torah, and they asked, what's in it for me? What's it all about? What does it say? Is it worth it? So with each nation, Hashem said, it says, don't steal, don't kill, don't commit adultery. Every nation had their tendencies or weaknesses or flaws. And because of that flaw or tendency, they decided the Torah is not for them. It's not worth it. We can't abide by that. We disagree. Anyways, the Jewish nation said, Na'aseh koydem l'nishma. We will do, and then we will hear. And because of that, we got the Torah. So this is spoken about in all the Svarim, and especially in Chassidus. We talk about the level of Ratzon, the level of Baal Ratzon. This represents Kabbalah Seil. Kabbalah Seil is obedience, subservience. And over here also you could say that in a certain sense, if we want to look at the pasuk and the words of what Rashi is saying, why does Hashem, Tomim Tiyim Hashem Elikecha? Because we're the ones that are not putting Hashem to the test. We're not having doubts. That's what the pasuk means over here. We're not asking questions about how he's conducting the world. That's what it means. Tomim Tiyim Hashem Elikecha. Exactly as Rashi says. You have your feeling towards Hashem. Whatever Hashem does, you look at for the good, and you're comfortable with it, and you trust it. Basically, we're obedient. So, it's like a parent in a certain sense. When you have children, and you need help, and then you have the child, one child will say, do I have to? And every single time he puts a big fuss, when he has to make a contribution, and then you have another child who shows an eagerness to satisfy and to help. So obviously, when it comes to carrying out a mission, or you need a job, you're going to turn to the child that's more pleasant to deal with. So it's the same thing in general with the Eibishter and the Yidden. The Eibishter had a plan. The Eibishter needed a nation to carry out his plan. The plan of Malchusay B'Kol Mishala, the idea of Dira B'Tachtoinim. And he went to every other nation, and they didn't want to go along with the plan. Because they started asking questions. That means it was going to be difficult. When it came to the Yidden, they just said, yes, sir. Hineni, here I am. Nasa koydem l'nishma. So of course, he went along with us, because we're like the child that runs to the parent and says, here I am, what do you want? Okay, so that's one level of looking at it. But the Gemara over there in Shabbos, Peches Amud Beis, says the following, which is amazing, which is about a comment in general about life. And my friends, I want to tell you something. I believe this might even be the number one advice that you will not hear from any life coach really. Maybe now a bit of the ultimate truth has pervaded society. And that is the concept of being simple, keeping simple. Now, what's the Gemara over there in Shabbos? Everyone already knows the Gemara. It says, Ahum Mina, there was a heretic, and he saw Rava learning Torah very intensely. I'm cutting to the chase. I'm not telling you over all the words of the Gemara. Omalei, and he said to Rava, this heretic, Amma Paziza, you're an impulsive, rash nation. Dikadmisu pumaychu ludanaychu, that you preceded your mouths before your ears. You said, yes, sir, Nasa, koydem unishma, that you're ready to do before you heard even what it's about. And he says, first you should listen, and then if you're capable to carry through the mission, then you say yes. I've said this many times. Sometimes you have someone comes over to you and asks you, can you do me a favor? And then you say, depends what? Rahman al-Islan. But that's the usual normal way. Because it depends. Not necessarily can you do that favor that the person's asking. When Hashem asked us, we didn't say it depends. Yes, sir. Hineni. Nasa koydem unishma. Rava, this heretic is saying to Rava, you are not normal. It's abnormal. It's not sanity. It's not the actions of a sane person. Because it's like we said many times, imagine you have a contract and it says sign here on the dotted line and you don't read the contract. There's terms and conditions and you don't even read the terms and conditions. No sane person would do that. Correct. It's because our relationship with Hashem transcends logic. And this is what Rava answered him. Listen closely. It's a posik. He said, Anan, the Signina B'Shleimusa, us, the Jews, who proceeded wholeheartedly. And over here the Gemara uses the word B'Shleimusa, and it means wholeheartedly. Same idea as Tomim. Ksiv by us, what it says concerning us about the Jewish nation, Tumas Yishorim Tanchem. The earnestness, integrity, sincerity of the upright will lead them, will guide them. I'm saying it again, this pasuk. This is the unique, singular characteristic and trait of the Jewish nation, that Tumas Yishorim Tanchem. This is what distinguished us from the entire world. The entire world says, what's in it for me? And asks a question. The Jewish nation, Tumas Yishorim Tanchem, the sincerity, the integrity of the upright will lead them. So therefore we say, Nasa Koydem Nishma. And the Gemara says, Hanachin she designing Balilusa, but those people that go with the crookedness, deceitness, the libels, Ksibbe v'selef boigdim yishodim. The crookedness of the faithless will destroy them. So what does it mean, Tumas Yishorim Tanchem? What that means is that there's a trust. There's a trust. A Yid trusts Hashem. When we said Nasa Koydem Nishma, it reflects the intimacy and the bond and the unification and the oneness. I have your back, you have my back. When you're dealing with a father, when you're dealing with a mother, there's no question if it's a healthy situation, that if the father or the mother will ask you something, for sure, no question about it. Similar to Yitzchak with Avraham Avinu. No problem. Whatever Avraham asks Yitzchak, that's it, he's ready. So when we say Tumas Yishorim Tanchem, the earnestness leads them with Hashem. It means that it shows on a connection, on a deep connection, the deepest connection. Yidden have a special connection with Hashem. like every other quality that we speak about, B'nai Yisrael, their Mesiras Nefesh, their Emunah, whatever it is, same things over here. So because of that essential bond, they have that Tumas, Yisharim Tanchem, like we say in the Kapitel, Chav Zayin, L'cha or Malibi. Inside, in every single one of us, is pumping a magnet connecting to our source. And that's the Tumas, Yisharim Tanchem. We have an unspoken trust and loyalty, which is unlimited to Hashem. And that's what the Tumas Yisharim Tanchem means. So I want to pause for a second before we get back to this and Avodas Hashem. When we talk about, it means also a simplicity. And it also means that's a characteristic of simplicity. I'm going to say this point, and then it's not so organized. But the older I get, the more I see, it's like I have these discussions with my friends sometimes. Imagine we take the yearbook, the graduating class of 76, or the graduating class of 81. And we look at the pictures, the one most likely to become president of the United States, one most likely to become, whatever, the greatest athlete, whatever it is, the biggest shliach, the biggest rav. So, what we see again and again, the older we get, is that Tumas Yisharim Tanchem. Those that went with an attitude that they're not the wise guy, they're not full of opinions, they're not somebody that knows better than somebody else, they're not necessarily the academic or the scholar, but they have a certain Tumas Yisharim Tanchem. They go with a Tmimus, they go with a sincerity, they go with an earnestness. They got further. Like they say the famous saying, when you get to Temchi Tmimim, I don't know what the source is, that the Dalits from the Lubavitch haben gemacht besser wie the Aleph Aleph. Those that were the D-level students, in contrast to the A-level students, were more successful. And it means in the long term, in the long vision, they had a better life. They had a better life. And this is where, in the world, when we say complex, it's meant sometimes to be as a quality, and we're not knocking, sometimes it's about how you're being born. But what you have to realize is, as a virtue, Tomim Tiyim Hashem Elikecha, which means you should go with the way of Tamimus when it comes to Hashem. And in general in life, I'm going to be careful how I'm speaking over here. In other words, and that's what we're talking about, this pasuk over here, the depth and the profundity of Rashi, is not only the idea of Kabbalah sale, which someone could mistakenly think, we're just followers. That's not what it's about. It's about our relationship with Hashem is so deep, and that we know, less machshava tzisabei klal, so therefore, the best way in life is to in a way, flow with Elokus, with what the Torah says, with what the way of life, things like that. What can I tell you? This is what I've seen from life. So now, I want to tell you a vort that I saw recently, a couple of vetach that's brought down in the Friedger Rebbe Sichas. One I just discovered, which I could not believe it. This is in Sefer HaSichas, Tafshin Hey, page 101. The Friedger Rebbe is talking, he says, Amola de Chinuch gewer goran andere. The whole education was different. The way they were taught in yeshivas and in school. As a given alts betmimus, everything was with a certain level of tmimus, earnestness, sincerity. Heim by the kinder, heim by the Eltern. This was on the part of the students, the children who were in yeshiva, and on the part of the parents. And I would say it means of a certain respect to Torah, to Yiras Shamayim, to the right values. The Tmimus, das is the Pshitus. He says Tmimus means Pshitus. We're going to have to explain what Pshitus means in a second. It used to be that we had respect for the teachers. Now we say about a teacher, was lernt alte Sachen? What's he teaching the kids? Things from centuries old stuff. Get with the times, get with the program, get with the current affairs. Amol is a gefühlte Pshitas. We used to feel this Pshitas. Es doch Yidua dem Teich, this I never heard before, or I've forgotten it already. And this is the ultimate depth of the meaning of the words Tomim Tiyem Hashem Elikecha. Es doch Yidua dem Teich, it's known the interpretation from Heid Krei Kedush Admor Rav HaKadosh HaMtzoi, the Mittel Rebbe, the second Chabad Rebbe said, auf dem Posuk, on the Posuk, Tomim Tiyem Hashem Elikecha, durch dein Temimus, through your Temimus, kannst du zukommen zu Tmimus Havaya. You can come to the level of Tmimus Havaya. Und Tmimus Havaya, and Tmimus Havaya is the Pshitus Atzmus. Is the Pshitus Atzmus. So to understand this, again, so over here it's Tomim Tia. If you be Tomim, Im Havaya Lekecha, you'll reach Hashem, you'll be one with Hashem. But it doesn't only mean you'll be one with Hashem, you'll be like Hashem. Similar to Hashem, that Hashem, the highest level, is Pshitus Atzmus. So with your Pshitus, you reach his Pshitus Atzmus. And basically, this is paraphrasing the famous Pisgum saying that's repeated many times in previous Rebbe Sichos in the name of the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov said, and it's brought down many times, der Pshitus von a Ish Poshet, der langt in Pshitus Atzmus. The simplicity of a simple person reaches the simplicity of the essence of Hashem. So this is really for another whole lesson, that one of the revolutions of the Baal Shem Tov was he was very strongly brought the simple folk closer. He was makarev them, he lifted them up, he made them feel like $1 million. He spoke always how special they are. And the reason was, this is what he said, the simplicity. The simplicity means the purity. The purity of the simple folk, the earnestness of the simple folk that's coming with their love to Hashem. Their love is pure. No layers, no agendas, just a simple purity of heart. That purity of heart reaches the purity of the essence of Hashem. Now, what does it mean, Pshitus? Pshitus means divested of form, divested of definition. As the saying goes, the ganze Upteich von Atzmus is as hat nicht kein Upteich. The whole definition of the Eibishter is that he has no definition. So when you say Pshitus, simple means that it's divested of color, divested of definition, divested of form. It's the real essence of Hashem, which has no limitations. The Baal Shem Tov said that the purity of the simple Jew reaches the essence of Hashem. And that's what it means when he says, Der Pshitus von a Ish Poshet, der langt in Pshitus Atzmus. Here, the Mittel Rebbe comes and takes that concept exactly and says it in the words of Tomim Tiyem Hashem Elikecha. That what it means is you should take your simplicity, your wholeheartedness, and that's how you should be in your relation with Hashem. Tumas Yishorim Tanchem, and with going in a way of Tumas Yishorim Tanchem, you get further, you reach the essence of Hashem, and your life is better. And you become like Hashem, that He is Pshitus Atzmus. Your Pshitus is a reflection, it's a mirror of His Pshitus. And we'll finish with two very famous Pizgomim in Chabad about a contrast there was one city, one town, it was called Nevel, and there was another city, town called Kremenchuk. A Neveler, someone who came from Nevel, was somebody who was full of life and full of spirit and full of joy, a very warm-hearted chassid. And the Neveler were not maskilim, in the contrast of those in Kremenchuk, were called the maskilim. Those were the deep thinkers, the ones who understood Chabad Chassidus is called Chabad because we elaborate on a level of Chochmah, Bina, Das, about concepts of time, space, creation, say the Ishtalshalos, the whole order of the cosmic beings. So they were maskilim, which is a praise. I mean, it's a good thing, it's a quality. The mind is immersed in Seder Shtalshalis and Elikus, Das Elikei Avicha. And the Nevler were not maskilim, and they weren't really oivdim. Oivdim were people that would sat and davened for hours every single day. The Nevler were more action-oriented towards helping another Jew. And they were full of life, full of spirit. That's what characterized a Nevler. So the two sayings, one from the Mittel Rebbe, from the second Lubavitcher Rebbe, one from the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Mittel Rebbe said the famous word, Hallelu ben Nevel, which means that the literal meaning of the word comes from the Pasuk in Tehillim. Hallelu ben Nevel means that you should praise the Eibishter with a lyre. That's a musical instrument, a string instrument like a harp. So the Pasuk says, praise Hashem with a harp. But the Mittel Rebbe made a play in the words. It says, Hallelu ben Nevel, praised are those that come from Nevel, from the town in Russia called Nevel. They should be praised because that's more precious. It's more beautiful. Those chassidim that are full of heart, full of warmth, full of life. That's what the Mittel Rebbe said. But the Rebbe Rashab said it more blunt, you could say. He said a famous word, "Abay mir mer tayer, a kotzer from Nevel, vi a krementshuke maskel." By me, it's more precious. I cherish more a butcher from Nevel than a krementshuke maskel, than one of these deep thinkers, chassidim from Kremenchuk. So that's more radical to say it straight up. Here you have a butcher. He deals in meat all day. He's thinking about his store and what's occupying his brain space. But really, the Rebbe Rashab was saying he cherished those more. They were more precious because they're chassidus, the life of chassidus, lively, energetic, and always full of warmth and thinking of others and doing favors for others. That means, Pamilis Mertayer, a Krementshuke Kotzev, a Kotzev from Nevel, via Krementshuke Maskil. Because sometimes, the person with the mind, it's very nice, but not necessarily is that the type that is always involving others in his life and making others part of his life and bringing benefit to others, etc. So what we have to take from all of this, my friends, is that we have to make achlotis in the month of Ani l'doidi, v'doidi li. It's about the loyalty. It's about the warmth. It's about the affection. That's all what Ani l'doidi, v'doidi li is all about. And this is the profundity of Tomim Tiyem Hashem Alikecha. It's the idea, we have to think about this idea, my friends. Tumas Yishorim Tanchim. Think about that verse that the Gemara says. Tumas Yishorim Tanchim. The Rebbe should help that we should look inside of us in this month especially and to bring out more and more this trait of Ani l'doidi, the loyalty, the warmth, the affection, the bond, the attachment that we have to Hashem, and it'll be kemayim upon him, that the Eibush will show it to us in a revealed way, chsodim agluyim, revealed kindness, revealed love, l'matam yasar tvachim, b'teiva nirvanigla, begula mitzvah shleimo, take it from yad mamish. Posting from my home, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, your man in Melbourne.